Hi, I'm Jim Hoberman, a member of the selection committee for the New York Film Festival, and it was a great movie. And we have a dais filled with greatness here at the end. Brigitte Lin, one of the great stars of Chinese cinema, and we're very grateful that she's here. And on her right, Wong, one of the greatest filmmakers now working.
Thank you.
And next to me, Chris Doyle, one of the world's great cinematographers. And all the way at the end, Norman Wang, an excellent translator and a great guy. So I know that you must have many questions, and I will just ask one to each people on the panel, and then we'll open it up. I want to ask Brigitte Lin a question about the making of the movie. We gather that Ashes of Time was in production for a number of years, and I was wondering if there's anything about that extended period in working on the film that she would care to share with us. Any memory of that?
对，这个戏是我第100部戏。我那个时候我刚拍完《东方不败》，就是说，王家卫找我拍这个戏。我觉得王家卫把我另外一个这个反串的这个角色有另外一种诠释的方法。那么这个戏拍的其实非常辛苦，拍的时候不知道是将来这个戏是怎么样。不过那个看到这个电影是觉得有很大的 surprise， 也很喜欢。
This was the 100th film that Bridget did. At that time, she was at the peak of her career. She had done Swordsman 2, that everybody remembers. She played a man who became a woman. And she was very famous at that period of doing this male-female reversal roles. And Galway captured something very special with her. It was not an easy shoot, but seeing it again, she's very pleased with the result.
Thanks. Wong Kar-wai. It seems to me, although I know that memory plays tricks, and that's one of the subjects of this movie, that there is a good deal of different material in the new version, and I was wondering if that was in fact true, and if so, what that material was and where it came from.
So basically, the film there's a lot of different elements because a lot of people, because we have 3 screenings so far in different countries, and audience who have seen the originals keep asking me about questions. It's like, wow, you have made this part longer and you make that part shorter, and I just don't want to say anything about like what are the changes, because I don't want to focus on like just like a DVD bonus, how many unseen footage. I think the whole thing, it's the film. I just want to because it's impossible to do 100% restorations because the film, the original material, is in very bad shapes, and unfortunately we have lost some of them. So we have to structure the film in a different way, put in extra material, different sounds, and it is when you look at the end credit of this film, it's a very long end credit and show us this process. It's almost like an Odysseys, because we spent 5 years. The first few years we have to retrieve material from different part of the world, and I still remember 2 years ago I was here in New York, and I managed to get some stills of the film from the Mocha in Chinatown. And we went to San Francisco because a friend of mine told me that there's a warehouse outside of San Francisco which belongs to Chinatown cinema owners. And because the cinemas is gone already, so and he don't know how to deal with all this material, so he put all this copy of the Hong Kong films in that warehouse. By the time we look at the warehouse, there's pictures. There's almost like Raiders of Lost Ark. It's a huge warehouse with hundreds of copies piling up there. And basically it is the history of Hong Kong cinema, because you can see films from different different period, from like early Shaw Brothers until like the 90s. And we have to do like when we finally get all the material back, we know like the film, there's certain part of it was missing. So we have to restructure the film, and we have to do the digitally remaster the image in Europe and in Bangkok, and work with the Australian team for the sound, and also work with the Beijing musicians for the music film.
Okay, Chris, a question for you. Were you involved in the restoration of the film? And in any case, how do you feel about it? The heightened color in particular.
I was involved in the restoration of myself at the time. So Ashes of Time's Redux is what we're going to do tomorrow night. Hopefully somebody made it look better than I did. I don't know, Ashes of Time. Hopefully there'll be what's after a retux, refurbishment. I don't know. I think for me the collaboration was evident in the time we spent pursuing it. For Bridget and myself, for any of the actors and the camera team, the hardest part of the film was keeping sound out of your eyes. I think obviously since you're all still here, there must be something that works. I hope that's kind of what this issue or this event or this evolution of the film means, that access. To me, that's what it's all about. That obviously people from different places now have access that they wouldn't have had to the film in a limited release it had before. So I think it's a reassessment, and I do that reassessment just by watching it myself. And I think that brings back, what the main interest of this adventure is, and what the content and the emotional and conceptual ideas behind the whole film itself are anyway.
Okay, we can take some questions now. Please, no speeches, and so I can remember what your question is and repeat it before it's answered.
And we'll only say yes or no.
Yeah. Yes. The question was actually a request for the filmmaker to comment on the relationship between time and karma.
I think most of the time, Jim also is responsible for that, because most of the time people address like, well, your film is about time, but it's a very vague expressions. I think for Ashes of Time, it's more about, because the structure of Ashes of Time is based on the Chinese almanac. It's about repetitions. It's not about like the passage of time. It's really about like a cycle. There's always spring next year. In a way, it is a very Chinese thinking, because in Chinese poems, there's a lot of like blossom, and the blossom is the same, but the faces is different, So I just want to show the changes through the unchange. You see like the characters, changes they went through, and the seasons remain the same.
The question had to do with the presentation of the sword play and the thinking behind that.
Chris and I has a different perspective about like shooting action scenes, and my approach basically, I think action scene itself is an extensions of emotions. What I'm trying to convey in this film, I give my idea and to Samuel Hong, the action directors, and also to Chris, is for one character, the blind swordsman. I just want to show his swords become more and more heavy. The weight and the heaviness, he's tired. So we shot a lot with high speed, slow motions. And for the other characters, Hong Chi, who just fresh from the countryside, we just want to shoot. I just want to show the speed, and so we shot with step printing. And for the rest, it is basically Chris and Samuel Hong. And for Chris, he said, action is a bitch.
The question was, what expectations are there for this movie, which Wong Kar-wai once referred to as his most unfortunate child? Is that the correct?
I think so, in a way. And it's also the reason we start this Odyssey is we start to work on this Redux. The main reason is Edge of Time for us is a very important film because this is the first film that we produce ourselves. And at that point, because after my second film, it's very hard for us to actually to have producer to produce our film, because if we want to do something that we really believe, I think it's time for us to take our own responsibilities. And Edge of Time is a very complicated productions because we shot the film because we want to make a difference with the previous adaptations of the novel Eagle Shooting Hero, which most of them shot in the studio. So we decided to shot in China, and we spent 6 months in the desert. In 1992, shooting in China is like an adventure. It's not as common as today. So after 6 months, we know we manage. We know we can be responsible, and we can produce our film. And if we can manage these situations, we can do everything. And so that means without this film, that's why I said without this film, there won't be like Chungking Express, and there won't be like In the Mood for Love or my later film, because it is where we came from.
Okay, the questioner points out that the movie was Wong Kar-wai's first after Tiananmen Square. I'm not sure that it was, but
No.
But does it, in any way reflect what was going on in China at that time?
No, basically, this is not my first film after Tiananmen Square as events, and actually it's happened in '98 Tiananmen Square, right? So it's based
89,
yeah. So and this film has nothing to do with that event.
Okay, two very different questions. The first has to do with whether or not the movie is a critique, possibly, of superstition, specifically Chinese superstition. The second question had to do with the director working with the actors on a project that was so complicated and I guess took up so much time.
I think first of all, I would let because it is the 6 months that we spent together in the desert is a very memorable experience, and each of us has a different piece of it. So I think it will be interesting to have Chris and Bridget to talk about their experience first, and I come back to your answer questions later. All right?
Okay.
As I remember, it took 3.5 days to get from Hong Kong to where we were shooting most of the film. At that time, China, CAAC means China Airlines always crashes. So it was a commitment. In all, you were taking your life in your hands. We were in very inhospitable terrain, but now it's a scenic attraction because of this film, which is quite interesting. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that perhaps this relates a little bit to your analysis or many people's interest in the structure of any Wong Kar-wai film and its relationship to Chinese literature, belief, superstition, culture. It's a mandala. You find the film, you don't make the film. I think that's the great pleasure, and as you may know, I have done films with other filmmakers in other cultures, and I think this process, as you probably also realize since we've made so many films together, this is the one most pure and most dearest to what I believe is the real aspect, the real the real responsibility of a film and the filmmaking process, and the pursuit of ideas to their essence. I think that's the big difference, and that's why the process is sometimes very lengthy, and that's why the interaction and the give and take is the thing that forms the film, and that's why the climate in some of the films I've made is one of the major characters in this film, especially. Also, even if you go back to the way in which we approach martial arts, like I'm supposed to have said, martial arts is a bitch, but I hope when you see it, you say, "Son of a bitch." And I think that's the same thing that happened, for example, in the martial arts. I have no idea, when somebody throws the sword at me, I just jump, I just don't know what's happening. And I think that my ignorance of the form and our Ensemble Wong, our martial arts director's incredible intense, he's devoted a whole life to it, as has Jacky and Jet Li and all these other friends. I think that their intent has, we had to refine it, we had to find how it applied in the context of what we were receiving from it, what we were gaining from their intent, how we could hopefully find its essence in the way in which we interacted. So I felt often, my role in the martial arts aspect of it was to take what the martial artists were doing and try to find what I most responded to, and try to give that a form that would actually articulate it, hopefully, cinematically.
我的戏呢，大部分我的戏几乎都是在大陆拍摄的，是在榆林。记得那个时候是非常非常辛苦，可是我现在都已经觉得那些辛苦都是很好的回忆。
All the scenes of Bridget were shot in Yulin, which is a remote part of China, and it was very difficult to get to. And it was not an easy shoot. It was quite difficult. But now looking back, it's all very good memories of hers.
我的戏呢，我很记得有一个镜头是在那个湖上耍剑的那个镜头，我觉得我非常喜欢。现在我看到那个影片，我就很高兴。我那时候拍了这个镜头，因为当时拍的时候非常怕，我在那个湖中间，然后有很多那个爆破镜头啊，我不知道那个爆破会不会伤到我，但是我
不是你一个人啊，
当时我就拼命了。我心想，这个戏，这个镜头很重要，因为我戏里面没有什么特别打的，只有这个镜头是真正的是要耍剑，所以我就拼命把它做好。那么拍完了之后，我觉得很开心。
She remember very vividly. There's one scene by the lake that she worked with the sword, and then there was a big explosion, and it was very for her character there was not much action until that point. So she was rather scared because of the explosion. It might have whether it might have bad impact, but now looking back, she's very happy with that the scene was done.
我除了很喜欢这个镜头之外，我还喜欢一个，就是说我抱的一棵大树，大叫的那个表现出极度痛苦的那个镜头。
Another scene that she remembered very vividly and very fondly is when she holds the tree and started crying. It expressed deep sorrow.
这个戏拍的时候，导演之前我因为拍了一部戏非常非常卖座，然后去那个试镜的时候，导演把我的信心完全瓦解了。那等于是我在这个戏里面全部交给导演拍的这个就全部听导演的指挥。那有一个全新的自我，全新的这个表现的方式。
When she was before she came to shoot this film, she had a very big hit with Swordsmen 2, and she was very confident. And then when she came in working with Gao Wai, he kind of got her lost her confidence, and then came up with a totally new direction of Brigitte Lin.
导演除了很有这个拍戏很有才华，这个大家都知道。我觉得他有另外一个最大的才华是可 可以把那个人家的信心打破，然后可以再重建人的信心。
Well, Gawa is a very talented guy, but he also has one specialty that if you come in very confident, he can make your confidence disappear, but rework it, and you come back with more confidence again.
还有一个小趣味，就是我们在山洞里其实是很那个环境非常不好，然后有很多虫，然后有一个那个张国人呢就被那个蝎子蛰到那个脖子后面，然后很剧毒，我们这很害怕，结果还好他没事。
Another anecdote was we shot most of my scenes it's involving Leslie. It was shot in a cave, and inside the cave there were many insects, including scorpion. And Leslie got bitten by a scorpion at the back of his neck, but luckily everything was okay.
这个戏一开始我其实最早看的时候我不太懂，现在经过10几年呢，我觉得我看懂了，原来他是讲整个戏就是讲爱，然后是每一个人就是说爱跟不爱，他们都感觉的很孤独。我看了这个戏之后，我觉得我非常的很高兴，我有参与这个戏。然后我这个因为这个音乐重做马友友，我也很喜欢他。然后这个画面颜色又有一些处理，所以我觉得我很拍这个戏，我觉得我没有遗憾。我在退出影圈之前，就是停止拍戏之前，我拍了这部戏。
When I first saw the film 14 years ago, I didn't quite understand it, but seeing it again, I really enjoyed it. With the new score with Yo-Yo Ma doing the cello, with the coloring and everything, I'm very happy that I had taken part in this film before stopped working 14 years ago. So I'm very pleased to be part of it.
Thank you.
I'm afraid that we're just about out of time, but there was one question on the table.
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to explain to you about. I want to say something about the original novel, The Eagle Shooting Hero, and it is an epic, and it is the second bestseller in Chinese literatures, only next to Chairman Mao's book. So the novel has like almost hundreds of characters in it, and it is a very complicated story. And that's why when I work on these adaptations, because this novel is so popular that it has so many different versions of adaptations before us. So we just want to make a difference. So I instead of following the book, I just create the early days of the two characters. And because it is so complicated, I have to figure out a structure. And at the end, I decide to go for the Chinese almanac, because I think this is what related, the form actually works well with what I want to express in this film. And when you look at this Chinese almanac, because it tells you about the seasons, and it is about the Chinese wisdom, because when you look at all this almanac, it's not only about the temperature or just the weather. It also tells you about how nature works, because they have all this implication about the birds coming back, the migraine, and also when you should have your harvest, and all these informations, even your daily life. So what I'm trying to say is not about, it's nothing related to superstitions. It's more related how the nature works. It is normal life, and things keep going on and on and on. And also I want to say something today, because it is not very rare, especially in '92, for directors, not easy to be offered to have a chance to make a big martial art film in those days. And actually, it's the main reasons we have these opportunities. I have to say, I have to thank Bridget, because without her, it won't be impossible. Bridget has a very amazing career, and she's like instrumental for the flourish of Taiwanese cinemas in the late 70s. And he also is the reasons of the revival of the martial art film in the 90s. And because of the success of Swordsmen 2, which Bridget played a male character, this genre become like revivals. And at that point, we have the chance to make this film. And at the same time, we have to understand, because we have to shot in China, and actually to arrange the transportations of all our cast is almost like a drama, because it's very, very complicated. We have to fly to Xi'an, and we have to take a small plane, which is not very safe. And at the same time, Bridget, at that point, was making 5 films at the same time. So she has to fly back and forth. But she's been with us all the time. And without her support, this film would not be possible. And also with Chris. And because for Chris, he has no idea about martial art film. He has no idea how this, like, how to like this place, because we are working with a very limited budget. So he has to lead the whole set with only a very small portable generator. And so at first he talked about all these references about rambling and blah, blah, blah. And at the end I said, no, you have only one generator. You have to deal with it. And he turned out this amazing image for this film. And also I have to thank him for today, at least to make an effort to have his new haircut.
Okay.
And also it is a very special moment for me, because for Bridget, this is the first time for her to present the film in front of an audience and to meet the audience after the marriage. So I'm very grateful for her presence to support the film. And most of all, I would like to thank all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank you.
Thank you, Jim.